Hello and welcome to Knight's Kitchen with Mr. Leone. Remember, although cooking is fun, it can be dangerous. Remember to always follow proper safety and sanitation methods while working in the kitchen. If you want, you can pause the video after each step to follow along. Remember to review the recipe before watching the video. Make sure you ask a guardian for help if needed. Be safe and have fun. This week's recipe, pizza. Ingredients for dough: 4 cups of flour, plus a little bit extra for dusting, 2 1/4 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of instant yeast, 2 teaspoons of honey, 1 1/2 cups of warm water. Make sure to gather your ingredients before starting any recipe. For the first step, we're going to mix the honey with the warm water. Make sure the water is warm because this is going to help dissolve the honey and also activate the yeast. Once the honey is mixed in, we're going to add the yeast and we're going to let this rise for about 5 minutes. Once the yeast starts jumping around and floats to the top and becomes nice and foamy, that's when you know you're ready. Next, we are going to mix together the flour and the salt. Then we are going to add the yeast mixture and mix until you form a rough dough. You don't have to worry too much about the shape of the dough now, it's just going to be a rough shape and you just want most of the flour absorbed. Before we continue, we're going to let the dough rest for about 10 minutes. You can just leave it right in the bowl. After the dough has rested, we're going to knead the dough on low speed for about 10 minutes. Your dough should barely stick to the bowl. If it's sticking too much, you may need to add a little bit more flour, and if it's not sticking at all, you may need to add a little bit more water. After the mixing process, your dough should be smooth and soft like a pillow. Now we're going to let the dough rest overnight in the fridge. Resting the dough overnight in the fridge helps develop more complex flavors. While the dough has its beauty sleep, we are going to make the sauce for the pizza. Ingredients for sauce: 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, 2 cloves of garlic grated, a pinch of red pepper flakes, salt to taste, 2 sprigs of fresh basil, 1 medium onion peeled and split in half, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. Gather your ingredients for your sauce before you start. For those of you that don't know, this is a microplane, sometimes referred to as a zester. If you don't have one of these, you can use a grater or just chop your garlic up very fine. For blending your tomatoes, you can either use a hand blender or a regular blender. Make sure you don't blend it too smooth, you want it a little bit chunky. For the sauce, we're going to start by heating up the olive oil and butter. Once the butter is melted, we're going to add the garlic, oregano, and pepper flakes. I added a big pinch of pepper flakes, but I like it spicy. Cook the garlic and spices on medium heat. We don't want to brown the garlic, we just want to saute it for a little bit. Once your garlic and spices start to become fragrant, add your tomatoes, onions, and basil. Turn your heat to the lowest setting and simmer the sauce for about an hour, until it's about half the volume. Once the sauce has reduced, remove it from the heat and take out the onions and basil. Season with salt to taste. Allow it to cool down to room temperature and store it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. After your dough has rested overnight, it should have doubled in size and look something like this. Place your dough on a floured surface and dust with more flour. Using a bench scraper or a knife, cut your dough into 6 equal portions. Grab the edges of the dough and bring it to the center. Flip your dough over and roll with your hands, using your thumb to tuck the dough under itself. Your thumb should be doing most of the work. The rest of your hand is just there to help guide the shape. You should end up with 6 dough balls that are smooth and round. Put some olive oil in a bowl. Use the dough ball to spread the olive oil all around, ensuring that the bowl and the dough is covered. Tightly wrap the bowls with plastic wrap and let rest for 2 hours at room temperature. Place a pizza stone in your oven. If you do not have a pizza stone, you can use a cast iron pan or a baking sheet flipped upside down. I use 2 pizza stones because this helps generate higher heat. The pizza stone on top is going to help cook the top of the pizza, and placing the pizza on the bottom stone is going to help cook the bottom of the pizza. Preheat your oven to 550 degrees Fahrenheit, or as high as your oven can go. Once the dough has doubled in size, we're going to put it onto a floured surface, press it down in circular motion to try to get an initial round shape. Next, we are going to toss the dough back and forth between each of our hands. This is going to help loosen up the dough and make it easier to stretch. Now we're going to stretch the dough by pushing up with our top hand and pulling down with our lower hand. You want to try to continuously rotate the dough. This will help ensure that it becomes round. You can also hold the dough in the air and rotate it. This will use the dough's weight to help stretch it. Once your dough is stretched, place it on a floured pizza paddle. If you do not have a pizza paddle, you can also use a cutting board. It's very important that you use flour underneath, otherwise your dough is going to stick when you try to get it off your paddle. Now place whatever toppings you like on your pizza. I'm using tomato sauce, cheese, and pepperoni for this pizza. Using your pizza paddle, carefully slide the pizza onto the heated stone. Cook for about 7 to 8 minutes, rotating the pizza halfway through the cooking process. Your pizza should be a nice golden brown. If there's some charred bits, that's alright. People pay extra for that in expensive restaurants. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. See you next week!